So just making sure that we start out 100% in the clear, Romanticism does not mean romance. There's a big difference between something that is romantic and something that was written in the time period of Romanticism. And I'll prove it to you. The novel you're reading right now, yes, Frankenstein, is an example of Romanticism. You might be thinking right now, how could this book be called anything close to something like romantic based on its subject matter? Let me explain. Romanticism is a literary movement that sprung up in the 1700s and 1800s as sort of a reaction against the Enlightenment. Now, while that movement brought scientific advancement and reason to many parts of Europe, Romantic poets and writers felt like people were starting to lose their connection to or their respect for nature and the sublime things of the world, which could sometimes include religion. Their writings were an attempt to bring people back into a mindset where they valued the world around them for its beauty and were very in touch with their emotions. The way that this novel interacts with nature and man's place and purpose within creation actually lines up quite well with this literary movement. There are 4 important qualities of romantic literature that I want you to know as we work our way through this novel. The first characteristic of romantic literature is an interest in the common man, or in childhood. Romantics believed in the natural goodness of human beings, so their worldview would sort of revolve around the idea that man is basically good and virtuous. However, this goodness is held back by civilization and what we may call progress. They believed that it was more noble to live and place your values outside of society and civilization. So a person living in like an undiscovered tribe in the wilderness would actually be a more noble human being because they have not yet been corrupted by society. Your phone, it's an agent of corruption, according to the Romantics. Childhood is good and should be valued in the same way because a child is typically very innocent, and the Romantics wanted to return to this innocence. The emotions inspired by both beliefs should cause us great joy, according to them, and we should strive to get as close to these situations as we can. And speaking of emotions, that's the second characteristic. The Romantics placed a premium on strong senses and strong emotions. Romantics believe that knowledge is not only gained through deduction, experiment, or logic, but through intuition, tapping into your emotions and quote-unquote following your heart. The famous Romantic poet William Wordsworth summed this up by saying that all good poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. And if civilization and progress are the enemy, then good poetry, according to them, must be the most noble thing that anyone could create in this lifetime. In this way, the creative faculties of the mind and of the imagination are legitimate bases for making decisions and developing a worldview. They felt if you tapped into this enough, every answer to every big question was within humanity's grasp if they could just get away from that pesky society. That leads very nicely into the third characteristic, the Romantics' awe of nature. They stressed that nature should be seen as sublime, powerful, beautiful, and almost godlike in art and in language. Any sublime experience that humans can have can only happen through a connection with nature. This goes back to the rebellion against Enlightenment thought. The Romantics wanted nothing to do with the rationalization of nature by previous thinkers. They didn't want to see nature as a collection of atoms bumping into each other and just reflecting colors off the sun. They wanted to hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, ask the grinning bobcat why he grins, sing with all the voices of the mountain, and paint with all the colors of the wind. Finally, there was a celebration of the individual person within Romantic thought. It wasn't so much about the advancement of society as it was about personal fulfillment and experiences. They had a soft spot for heroes who were marginalized and who were outcast because, hey, if society rejects you, you must be doing something right because society is bad. Society is always wrong. We certainly have an example of this in something like Frankenstein. So we're going to just take a quick look at a typical Romantic work and see how it lines up with these characteristics. This poem is called "The World is Too Much With Us, Late and Soon."
The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
Now, this first part, the world is too much with us late and soon. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. There's that idea that man has been corrupted by society. The world is too much with us. Little we see in nature that is ours, and by ours, he means what belongs to humans. Men have traded their emotion and ability to connect with nature for the cold reality of civilization. He is also wishing he could tap into the strong senses and emotions. He says, I'd rather be a pagan, meaning he wants to worship in a religion that gives him a better connection to nature, even if he believes in his mind that religion is false. He's sort of mourning the fact that he's been made somewhat agnostic, at least towards ancient religions, by the Enlightenment. He wants to go back to the place where he can just awe at nature again. We see this again by his descriptions of nature and his declaration that humanity is out of tune with it. Finally, the whole poem is a celebration of individualism because he describes his desires and what it would be like to be a truly noble human being in touch with nature. You need to have glimpses of nature, glimpses that make you less forlorn, because once that happens, the world will open up to you and everything will make sense. The thesis of the poem is, let's get back to nature and respect it for the beautiful thing that it is. Now, while this poem, even though it's a little mopey, is at least somewhat encouraging in the sense that it provides some direction, some romantic works are actually pretty dark and are warnings about what will happen if you tamper with nature in the wrong way. Frankenstein certainly fits this romantic idea.